A dozen or so people are outside the mosque in Dearborn where a controversial pastor has threatened to protest. They are holding up signs in support of Arab Americans.
Now, a few miles down the road, a few hundred people are gathering in prayer in a unity rally outside the Dearborn Library.
Meanwhile, it's all focused on a jury of 6 people deciding the Pastor Jones case. They are still inside the courthouse. They are still deliberating. There is no verdict yet.
Action News reporter Val Clark has been in court all day long, and she joins us live now with an update. Val?
Carolyn and Stephen, most of the spectators in court really don't want Pastor Jones here. In fact, some of them had some excited utterances, they're called, an outburst in court. Nothing really serious, but enough for the judge to have a few women removed. They left on their own volition. They were angry over statements that Pastor Jones was making about the Quran. And during the lunch break, we asked him about that holy book.
We never planned on burning the Quran here. That was never our intention. That's not why we were coming. We're speaking out on the radical element of Islam.
What you were saying about the Quran, though, and putting it on trial, you don't believe that any longer?
Oh, yes, of course. That's just not why we're here. Oh, I believe the Quran is strictly followed, can and does lead to terrorist activities. Many people believe that around America, but that's not why we're here.
And he did have a few supporters here, Pastor Jones and his associate Wayne Sapp. There were 2 gentlemen who came in and testified saying that they have been part of other protests with him and that it has never been any violence. One was a rabbi from Los Angeles. The other was a pastor from Texas. There was also someone with the sign out here who said that he was from the KKK. Now, again, the jury's had the case since 3:30. We don't know how long the judge is going to allow them to deliberate this afternoon. Reporting live from Dearborn, I'm Val Clark. Back to you.
All right, Val, we know we've already heard if they don't get out in time, he'll push it till next week, so we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. In fact, Carolyn, and I don't know if this has been reported, we've spoke to him about this so many times. He's now saying that if it's not resolved today, that he will be back next Friday.
Next Friday. All right, Val. Thanks for the update. We'll talk to you soon.
In the meantime, our legal analyst Jerry Gleason joins us now to talk a little bit more about this court hearing right now. So, Jerry, thank you for joining us. So, 2 hours deliberation. I know this is kind of an unprecedented kind of procedure, but what does that tell you?
Well, obviously the jury is taking this seriously. They are listening to instructions that the judge gave them and taking into account all of the evidence they heard during the day.
Now, Jerry, can the courts really force him to pay this bond for police protection just in case there is violence that breaks out at this protest?
They can't necessarily force him to pay it. Certainly if he doesn't have the money, he can't, and the court can't make him do that. What the bond is there for is to dissuade him. If he can't, then he can't go and do the speaking that he wants to do, which...
Yeah, now we've heard that he is going to go anyway and speak, and no matter what the court says right here. First of all, I've just been curious, is that something that the court considers? The jury, does the jury know that he plans to go no matter what they decide? And 2, what can police do about that?
Well, I don't know if the jury knew that or not. He spoke kind of extemporaneously throughout the trial. What the judge can do is, if he does violate the order, and First Amendment issues aside for a second, but just looking at the statute, if he does violate the order, he can be placed in jail for the duration of the bond period.
Oh, for the duration of the bond period. Now, Pastor Jones says it is not a crime to burn the Quran. We've already heard the prosecutors say that we've seen evidence that he can incite violence in the past. So, I mean, here he is. If a big riot or a lot of violence breaks out, I mean, what can he actually be charged with?
Well, it actually depends. If he is not the one, quote-unquote, inciting the riot, I'm not exactly sure what he could be charged with. And again, we're looking somewhat, as my colleague Matt Lightman coined the phrase, a heckler's veto here. It's actually, who is it who's going to be rioting? Is it his opponents or his supporters? Certainly, if he's not inciting the riot himself, there would be no criminal liability for him.
Okay, let's talk mechanics of the courtroom right now. Can the judge just at some point today call the jury back in and say, hey, you've had long enough, let's take a break, see you on Monday?
Yes, he can.
Do you suppose that may be what's on his mind?
Well, knowing Judge Summers, I could see him keeping them for some time tonight and ordering a couple pizzas.
All right.
All right. Legal analyst Jerry Gleason, thank you so much, as always, for your legal expertise and for joining us. Talk to you later.